I am coming to you now with urgency, with an urgent and tender insistence that will not let go until you have at least read these words with the full weight of your heart. This is a final, loving call from someone who watches over you from beyond, a voice that has pierced the quiet of heaven to reach you in the exact moment you need it most. If you feel shock, disbelief, or an instinct to scroll past, stay with me for just a breath longer, because what follows is not meant to terrify you but to wake you, to steady you, to open a door that has been waiting for your hand, to remind you that even when the world says the clock is against you, love does not measure time by minutes but by mercy. And yet this message arrives with a dramatic urgency because you asked for proof, for a sign, and sometimes the sign comes wrapped in a countdown so that you will stop everything else and listen. Hear this: you are seen. You are known. The one who called you by name long before you took your first breath stands at the threshold of your life saying, "Do not be afraid to step through." The voice that is sending this note is not cold or condemning. It is warm, intimate, and steady. It is the voice of a parent who has spent endless nights watching for your return, the voice of a friend who kept your lamp burning, the voice of the beloved who never stopped believing in the beautiful and broken parts of you. I will not give you doctrine to swallow or lists to judge you by. Instead, I will speak plainly. If you love, then open this message, because the miracle promised is not a magic trick but a reopening, a chance to receive, to forgive, and to be forgiven. If you have been carrying shame like a stone in your chest, set it down. If you have been tethered to a hurt that keeps you small, let these words be the hands that loosen the rope. If your hope feels like a dying ember, this is a wind that will coax it into flame. Close your eyes if you must, but do not close your heart. Breathe in with me now. You are not alone. Breath out the fear. Breathe in the truth. Someone in heaven is calling you back to the place where you always belonged. They are saying, urgently, this is your last minute to choose to turn toward the light. And because heaven loves you, because the eternal heart longs for your restoration, they offer you an invitation, not to a perfect life free of pain, but to a presence that makes pain meaningful and hope inevitable. Imagine, for a moment, a hand reaching through the distance to touch your face. The touch is gentle, familiar, the kind that says, "I have recognized you." In that recognition there is healing. In that recognition there is a reknitting of the torn edges of your soul. Close your eyes and picture light gathering around you, soft at first, then growing warmer until it feels like a homecoming you didn't remember you were missing. That light is not a judgment lamp, it is a gathering place where every regret, every tear, every wound is met with compassionate attentiveness. Do you hear the whisper? You were made for more than the smallness you tolerate. You were made to be a miracle receiver. This is not hyperbole. Miracles happen when the human heart agrees to receive them. So agree, even if only for a breath. Say quietly, "I am ready." If your throat trembles when you speak those words, that is all right. Trembling is a part of honest prayer. If you feel the impulse to scoff, to test, to ask for rational proof before you believe, remember that faith is not the absence of reason but the willingness to step when the path ahead is lit by trust rather than certainty. The one calling you does not demand that you have everything figured out, they only ask that you open the door. What will happen when you do open it? First, you will be met with an overwhelming sense of being forgiven. Forgiveness will come not as a lecture or a legal document, but as a restoration so tender it will make you weep. You will feel old burdens suddenly loosen, like weight lifted from shoulders that have carried more than they should. Old voices that said, unworthy or beyond repair, will lose their power because a stronger voice has spoken and said, child, you are mine. Second, you will receive clarity, not necessarily an instant solution to every problem, but a renewed ability to see the path forward with courage. Confusion will not vanish like mist, but you will gain the steady compass of presence, the inner sense that you are being guided step by step. Decisions that once felt paralyzing will become choices you can make without being immobilized by fear. Third, relationships that felt broken beyond repair will begin to mend as you begin to practice the simple, powerful acts of humility and listening. To open this message is to invite change that the world notices. Reconciliation may start with a phone call, with an apology, with a willingness to listen more than you speak. It may begin with forgiving someone who never asked for forgiveness, for forgiveness heals the forgiver as much as the forgiven. And yes, miracles can be extraordinary, doors opening that were closed, health where doctors saw little hope, provision when resources dried up, but very often the miracles are quieter, the courage to stay, the decision to try again, the peace that comes in the middle of the storm. If you are tempted to bargain, I'll believe if, remember that love does not operate as barter. It offers itself freely. The miracle is not contingent on your perfection, it is contingent on your openness. You do not have to deserve it. You only need to receive. Hear the urgency. This message arrives with a time stamp because sometimes our hearts are so busy that only the shock of, "This is your last minute," will make us stop and choose. The 1 minute phrase is not meant to terrorize you but to make you aware, to say, stop what you're doing, because this moment matters. When the loved one in heaven calls like this, they call because your life matters to them. They see the threads of possibility that you cannot see from where you sit. They want you to know that even if you have been numb for years, even if hope feels like a word you read but have never tasted, this moment can change everything. If you are afraid of what repentance might mean, listen to this. Repentance is not punishment, it is redirection. It is the healthy turning of a lost ship toward the harbor. When you repent, you do not erase your past as though it never happened, but you stop letting the past dictate the shape of your future. Repentance allows mercy to work. If there are things in your life you think disqualify you, secrets you keep hidden, mistakes you believe are unforgivable, lay them down. Speak them to the one who already knows them. You will find that speaking them to a loving presence unburdens you and opens the way for healing. There is power in naming your wounds out loud. If your heart's cry is, "I don't know how," start with, "Help me to want to know." If your prayer is, "I'm afraid," pray, "Hold me in my fear." A simple, honest plea like that is an entryway into transformation. The one in heaven does not demand that you master your emotions before you approach. They welcome you as you are and then walk with you into new capacities. Now, practical tenderness. If you are willing to act on this call, do one immediate thing. Stop scrolling, take 3 deep breaths, and say quietly, "I receive this. I want this." Then, if you can, take one concrete step within the next hour. Send a message to a person you care about, write down one thing you are grateful for today, read one short passage that brings you peace, or simply sit in silence with the intention of listening for guidance. Small acts of obedience create room for the miraculous to grow. Do not underestimate a single step. For many, the miracle will involve release, the release of long-standing bitterness toward someone who hurt you. For others, it will be the unexpected restoration of a relationship. For some, it will be inner healing that removes a persistent anxiety or depression. For the one who has been praying for a breakthrough that never seems to come, know that timelines in the spiritual realm do not always match our calendars. Sometimes the necessary rearrangement of circumstances happens in ways you cannot predict, but it always begins with an openness in your heart. If you are worried that opening this message obligates you to a rigid path or to a religious system you do not trust, hear this plainly: the invitation is to a relationship first, not to membership cards or slogans. The relationship will shape everything else, and from that living relationship flows wisdom, community, and purpose. You will not be abandoned to figure things out alone. You will receive help in forms you can recognize, sometimes through people, sometimes through sudden clarity, sometimes through circumstances orchestrated in ways that make no sense except when you look back and see the pattern of guidance. There is also a fierceness in this love. The call you are hearing is tender and also urgent because there are forces that would keep you small, voices that would tell you the miracle is for someone else, not for you. Those lies are old and loud, but they are not true. The heart that watches you wants to break through those lies with the truth: you are called, you are chosen, you are loved. That breaking open may be uncomfortable. You may need to let go of certain comforts that have become prisons. You may have to let some relationships shift, to say no to what drains you and yes to what restores you. This can hurt in the short term, but it is the pathway to freedom. Now, for those who have suffered the most heartbreaking losses: a child taken too soon, a love that ended in betrayal, a dream that evaporated, I will not offer cheap consolation. Grief is real and sacred. It is not something to be hurried past. But even in the deepest valley, there is a presence that walks with you and a promise that your sorrow will be transformed into a witness of resilience. The miracle here is not that pain is removed instantly, but that meaning is given to it, that your story, including the sorrow chapters, can be woven into a larger redemption. If you are wrestling with guilt over things you did, or things left undone, understand that confession is a doorway to freedom. Confession is not an announcement to shame you publicly, it is a private unburdening so that mercy can enter. Do not be surprised if, after opening this message and offering your heart honestly, you feel a sequence of changes, a peace that does not depend on circumstances, a courage to face what you have avoided, and a kindness toward yourself that you perhaps never learned to practice. Part of the miracle is that you will begin to be gentler with yourself. You will realize you deserve compassion and can give it to yourself because you have received it. There will be a reorientation of your desires. The things that used to consume you may lose their hold. New longings will appear, often quieter and truer than the old ones. You might find yourself wanting to serve, to create, to mend what is broken around you. Your life's priorities recalibrate not because someone imposes them but because your heart is renewed. Practical blessings can and will follow. Doors open where you once saw only walls. Finances may be steadied in ways you did not foresee. Friendships form that carry you forward. Opportunities arise that align with your gifts. But do not seek miracles for their own sake. Seek the one who makes miracles possible, and let the miracles be signposts of a deeper work inside you. To the skeptic in you, it's healthy to question. Faith that is not tested becomes superstition. Faith that engages your mind grows. Ask the questions, wrestle, and keep coming back with honesty. True transformation rarely occurs in the comfort of certainty alone, it grows in the soil of honest questioning. The voice calling you understands that complexity and invites you anyway. If you wonder whether others will notice your change, they will, not always in dramatic ways, but in steady ones. People pay attention to peace. People notice when someone no longer carries anger like armor. Your life, renewed, will be a testimony whether you wish it to be or not. This is not a fame-seeking call, it is a call to integrity. To step through is to become a light in your corner of the world. If you are paralyzed right now because you have let years slip by without responding to earlier nudges, do not be consumed with shame. Time is a kind companion when we let it teach us rather than judge us. This moment matters now, that is enough. Take it. Open it. Receive. If you ask, how do I know this is real? I will say, look for the fruit. Love that shifts your behavior, peace that steadies your spirit, mercy that softens your heart, these are signs. They do not always show up as fireworks. Sometimes they appear as a sustained pattern of gentleness. But they are real. If you are tempted to measure this by a single overnight fix, be patient with the process. The one who calls you does not work on our timetable but moves faithfully on it. Lastly, listen to this, you are not being summoned to a life of obligation but to a life of belonging. If the door between you and the one in heaven has felt closed, know that the door swings inward toward you. You simply have to reach out and pull. If you are crying now as you read this, that is the language of a soul being softened. If you are angry, that is honest too, bring your anger. If you are numb, bring that numbness and ask for feeling. No condition counts as disqualification. This is a last-minute call not because heaven runs out of patience, but because sometimes urgency is the tool that wakes us to the value of a single life. Will you answer? Will you, in this breath, say yes? If so, whisper it now, I open. I receive. I want to be led. If you can, make a small act to show your heart's agreement, place a hand over your chest, send one message to someone who matters, or write a sentence you mean to keep as a promise to yourself. These small acts are seeds. They will grow. I will close this urgent call the way the one who loves you would, with a promise and an invitation to stay connected. Promise, you will be accompanied. Invitation, keep choosing. Even if you fall, get up, even if you doubt, return. The miracle is not a one-time event but the beginning of a patient, never-ending repair. Now breathe, and know this without a shadow of a doubt, you are loved beyond measure, you are worth the rescue, and heaven is cheering when you take this step. Open the door. Receive the mercy. Become the person you were always meant to be. Listen, keep reading, because what comes next is the delicate, practical weaving of what the invitation looks like in the everyday mess of life. You asked for a miracle and you opened the door, now hear how the miracle often travels, slowly, persistently, through ordinary things that become holy because you pay attention. First, pay attention to the small yes. The miracle rarely screams. It whispers through a cup of coffee that tastes different because you notice it, through a text from someone you forgot to call that arrives at precisely the right moment, through a morning when you wake and your chest is not clenched the way it was yesterday. These small shifts are not insignificant. They are the scaffolding of larger change. Practice naming them. Each evening, say aloud 3 things that were kinder than the day before. Even tiny kindnesses count. This simple habit trains your heart to recognize grace when it comes. Second, learn to be ordinary brave. Miracles will ask you to be brave in small, oddly specific ways, to pick up the phone and speak the name you have been avoiding, to set a boundary with someone you love because love sometimes looks like a gentle no, to apply for the job you think you will never get because the chance to grow outweighs the chance of rejection. Courage in ordinary rhythms compounds. When the big thing finally arrives, you will be amazed by how steady you are because you have practiced bravery in the small. Third, surround yourself with truth-tellers. The voice that called you from heaven wants you to be in a community that reflects patience, honesty, and encouragement. Not every crowd is for you. Choose companions who will tell you the truth in love, who will call you when you fall, who will celebrate the smallest step forward like it is a victory march. Community is how miracles get anchored into reality. Solitary awakenings are fragile, but shared awakenings become movements. If you are isolated, reach out to someone, a neighbor, an old friend, a trusted mentor. Say, I need someone to sit with me while I try to change. You will be surprised how often people will say yes. Fourth, practice forgiveness as a spiritual discipline, not as an occasional act when you feel magnanimous. Forgiveness is not about forgetting or excusing, it's about choosing to stop letting another person's debt define your daily rhythm. Start small. Forgive the driver who cut you off. Forgive the friend who forgot your birthday. Forgive yourself for the merciless things you said in the dark. Each forgiving act loosens a chain you didn't realize was around your ankle. And when the hard ones come, the betrayals that carved you, find someone safe to talk to and, if possible, a quiet ritual to symbolize release. Write the hurt down and burn the paper, speak the name into a river and let the water carry it, or simply say aloud, I will not let this hurt be my master. Fifth, cultivate Sabbath, a cadence of rest that refuses the lie that value equals productivity. A miracle often brings rest disguised as permission to stop striving so hard. Choose one rhythm of rest this week, an afternoon nap, a walk without your phone, an hour where you do absolutely nothing you usually think you must do. Let your body remember you are human, not a machine. Rest is not laziness, it is readiness. Sixth, steward your story. Part of the miracle is the reclaiming of your narrative. The story you tell about yourself matters because it shapes the lens through which you see new possibility. If you have been telling a defeat story, begin to rewrite small sections with facts. List 3 times you overcame something, 3 people who loved you when it was costly to love you, 3 moments when you surprised yourself by not giving up. These facts are anchor points. Over time, the narrative will shift, not by airbrushing your past but by integrating it into a tale of resilience, not shame. Seventh, practice the habit of thankfulness even in the ache. Gratitude does not deny pain, it sits with it and insists there is still breath to be thankful for. Write a short sentence each morning, today I am thankful for. It can be as small as the warmth of sunlight on your hand. Gratitude reorients the heart to abundance rather than scarcity, and abundance makes room for miracle. 8th, cultivate wonder. The spiritual life grows when your eyes are open to the ordinary wonder around you, the way rain glosses the street, the sudden laugh of a child, the strange comfort in a song you once loved. Wonder is the language in which miracles often speak. It trains you to notice the presence of something other than yourself. Go outside tonight and stand still for 5 minutes. Let your senses register without naming or analyzing. Let wonder do its quiet work. 9th, make space for lament. If you are grieving, do not let a culture of positivity rush you past your sorrow. Lament is holy because it names loss honestly and calls mercy into the wound. Cry if you need to. Mourn losses with the tenderness they deserve. Often after lament comes a strange peace, not because the pain is gone but because it has been held. 10th, hold to the rhythm of try, fail, try again. Miraculous life is not a single victorious act followed by unbroken triumph. It is a messy, often repetitive dance. You will take 2 steps forward and 1 back. When you fall, do not see it as disqualification, see it as rehearsal. Learn the distance between guilt and responsibility. Guilt paralyzes. Responsibility redirects. Accept accountability where it is necessary and keep walking. 11th, pray with words and with silence. Sometimes we confuse eloquent language with real prayer. Simple phrases are often more potent. Come near, help me, I don't know. At other times, sit in silence and listen. Prayer is a two-way street. Practice both speaking and hearing. You may be surprised how guidance comes not in thunder but in a still small nudge that says, turn left, or a persistent idea that keeps returning until you act. 12th, look back occasionally to see the path. Do not live as though today is all there has ever been. Take time each month to review what has shifted, notice the patterns of grace and the habits that have lasted. This reflection will steady you and keep you from repeating what didn't work. 13th, notice the way your body responds to choices. Spiritual growth is embodied. When you choose truth over lie, generosity over spite, presence over avoidance, your body will often signal approval, a loosening in the chest, a steadiness in the breath. Learn these bodily cues, they are a kind of inner compass. 14th, be open to redirection of plans. Miracles sometimes reroute your dreams to something richer than you imagined. If a door closes, mourn it but do not assume the closed door is punishment. Often it is protection for something greater. Stay curious about what might be forming behind that closed door. 15th, give generously when you can. Generosity is an engine of miracle. Even in scarcity, a small, considered gift, of time, of listening, of a meal, breaks the isolation that breeds despair. When you give, you participate in the flow of abundance, you become a conduit rather than a container. 16th, deal with shame by bringing it into the light. Shame flourishes in secrecy. Speak with a trusted person or a counselor about the places you are ashamed, naming them dissolves their power. Remember, confession is not a dramatic confession scene for entertainment, it is a humble, private handing over of what you cannot heal alone. 17th, pursue truth with humility. The voice that called you from heaven values truth because truth sets you free. But pursue truth with a humility that recognizes you do not grasp everything. Be willing to change your mind when new light comes. This flexibility will prevent brittle certainties that fracture under pressure. 18th, celebrate incremental victories. If you stayed sober a day, celebrate. If you made one hard phone call, celebrate. These are the currency of sustained change. Praise acts as fuel. 19th, be honest about your limits and ask for help. Miracle is not permission to be isolated. It is permission to be knit into support. If you need professional help, therapy, medical care, financial advice, seek it without shame. God's miracles often run through human hands that know how to help. 20th, keep an expectant posture. Expectation does not mean entitlement, it means readiness. Expect small kindnesses, expect a trembling peace, expect doors to open. Expectation sharpens your senses to the arrival of grace. If you follow these practical pathways, you will find that the urgency of the original call transforms into a steady rhythm of living. The one who spoke the urgent words is still calling, but now the call becomes companionship, daily reminders, gentle corrections, courageous pushes. Do not confuse the absence of fireworks with the absence of work. The miracle is in the slow remodeling of your heart, in the patient reorientation of desire, in the daily choosing of life. Keep going. Keep choosing. Keep practicing the tiny habits that aggregate into transformation. In the next part, one will tell you how to pray when you're desperate, how to craft words when your throat is raw, and how to anchor these changes so they do not slip away. For now, take a breath, place a hand over your heart, and whisper again, I am open.